Hernandez-Parks. And I am the board chair for Vocal New York. Thank you. I am also a community representative on the HASA Advisory Board and a proud member of Boom Health Peer Educator and Advocacy Team. But most importantly, thanks to Mayor de Blasio. I am Wanda. I have a home today. Like so many others here today, I spent years living on the brink of homelessness, deciding each day whether I would buy basic necessities like toilet paper and deodorant, or pay my utilities or my rent, literally living on pennies. When I went into rental arrears, HASA had the nerve to ask me why I was misusing my money. Like many of you, I told them I'm not misusing my money. I have no money. I had no money because of an issue we all have come to know as the 30% rent cap that forced us to pay 50, 60, and up to 80% of our disability checks towards rent. That ain't right. Leaving us with next to nothing to survive on. When I joined Vocal New York 7 years ago, I did it with one goal in mind. I was going to pass the 30% rent cap and protect myself as well as 10,000 other from eviction, extreme poverty. I went to City Hall and Albany telling my story to everyone who would listen. I told them that housing is health care, that without stable housing, people would get sick. And when I thought my words were not enough, I joined many of you in the streets. I rallied, I protested, I even went to jail a few times. And then came this mayor who talked about the tale of two cities and ending homelessness. I admit we weren't sure at first what he would do. So we did what we do. We hounded him. So sure, he got sick of us. But one day in Albany, he pulled aside two of our people and leaned down, way down because he's mad tall. And he said to them, I got you on this. Trust me. And we did. And he followed through on his promise. I want to thank the mayor because today we no longer protest outside at the home of our prior HRA commissioner for trying to implement policies that increase homelessness and poverty. Today, we sit across the new commissioner, Stephen Banks, who works with us to end homelessness. I want to thank the mayor because today we have a commissioner of health who understands that health disparities like HIV are not just a people's personal behavior, but about poverty, homelessness, sexism, transphobia, and racism. And I want to thank the mayor for working to implement the 30% rent cap and protecting over 10,000 of us from homelessness. And last, I want to welcome the mayor to this historic event, Day at the Apollo in Harlem, where we make a commitment as a community, as a family, alongside many other allies, to end AIDS in New York by 2020. Please welcome New York City Mayor de Blasio.
thank you all so much for the chance to be with you on this day, this incredibly historic place. It makes us remember, thank you, makes us remember so many noble struggles, so many struggles that were won. And I asked Wanda to stay a moment because I always say to people, it's very kind when you acknowledge a leader who followed through on a promise, but let's face it, change comes from the grassroots. Change comes from activists like Wanda. So I'd like you to give her the standing ovation for what she has done and all the activists like her. So many activists, so many organizations, so many everyday New Yorkers fought for years and years for change. It's the only reason it's happened. And Wanda, in her leadership with all of her colleagues at Vocal, have played a very special role. Yes, they've made their voices heard. Let's thank them for that. Because that's the right thing to do. It's what a democracy is supposed to be made of, that energy, that focus, that urgency. Yes, you're supposed to track down people like me in Albany and anywhere else you can find me. And let us know what you think, because that's how things change, as the essence of how things change. And we are blessed right now in this city to have some elected leaders who understand that, care about that, feel that. One of the reasons we've made the progress we've made is the Speaker of our City Council, Melissa Mark Viverito, I believe, is here with us today. One of the reasons we've made progress is our Manhattan Borough President, Gail Brewer. Let's thank her. One of the reasons we've made progress is Councilmember Corey Johnson. Let's thank him. This is a day that means many things to us. It is by definition a day of taking stock. It is by definition a day of recommitting ourselves to a struggle that continues. It's also a day of remembrance, a day of pain when you think of people who you've lost. And so many people here in this room have felt this epidemic in such personal terms. And you can think right now of family and friends and fellow activists who we've lost along the way. This day is for them, but not in mourning alone, in celebration of them, and in doing that thing that we should always do for those we've lost, living as they would have us live. Remaining active and focused as they would have us be. For years, I've had the honor of working shoulder to shoulder with so many people who have fought this epidemic. It's been one of the things that's defined so many of our lifetimes. I remember, just as I was finishing my years as an undergraduate at NYU, the first time someone died in one of the dormitories and no one knew what it was, and there was a mystery, there was a fear, there was a confusion. 1983. And this has framed so many of our lives, this fight against such a horrible enemy. But again, it's a reminder of the need to constantly recommit ourselves. I worked with people like so many of you did who showed me something about this fight. I worked in my time around the city council with Phil Reed. May he rest in peace. And he was one of the leaders who was HIV positive, showed us that you could be HIV positive and continue your life and continue the fight. someone who showed us something we needed to learn. I'm proud to borrow from his lessons, as so many here today are borrowing from lessons of good people we knew. Now, some things have changed. One thing that's changed is that HIV and AIDS are not getting the headlines and the focus that they once did. But it does not make it any less a problem that you don't see it on the front page. It's still a tragically large problem. 35 million people worldwide with HIV. Over 1.2 million in the United States of America alone. So we have to keep this a priority. We have to keep fighting. Now, New York City has a special responsibility because we've always been at the core of this crisis. Astounding figure that I think we all know emotionally, but sometimes it's hard to take in this number that we have lost in these years over 100,000 of our fellow New Yorkers. An astounding reality. And here, this very day, in our city, over 100,000 people living with HIV. We've been at the forefront of the crisis. We've also been at the forefront of the solution, not just in terms of the activism, which has focused the attention of the nation and the world and led to change, but what we've done medically, what we've done in terms of reaching people at their community, what our hospitals have done, what our medical schools have done, and research. This has been a place that has felt this crisis so deeply and a place that has tried to respond with all we have. And now we will go farther because there's more to do. Look, we're going to, as with any other crisis, have things that we see that give us a sense of progress and a sense of hope, and we're going to have moments of realization that there's a long road ahead. So I can keep both those thoughts in mind, as I know all of you can. Health Department of New York City is announcing today that new HIV diagnoses in this city are at a historic low, and that is something to be proud of. That is something to be so proud of, and so many people here today have contributed to that progress. And yet, a long fight ahead, and a particularly tough fight, because we know this disease particularly is afflicting our brothers and sisters who are African American, who are Latino, who are LGBT. So we understand this is a priority. Yes, something we had to do. Something we had to do was the 30% rent cap. That was necessary as a precondition for all other progress. And I want to thank all of you for helping us get there. I want to thank Steve Banks for his great role in both achieving that and now implementing it so more people are reached. I want to thank Dan Tietz, the director of HASA, because with their good work, it's one thing to change a law, but then you have to make it real. And with their good work, over 10,000 New Yorkers with AIDS no longer forced to decide between paying the rent or buying medicine. Let me offer one example of one New Yorker that really says it all. Jim Lister, HIV positive since 1989. He worked in his catering business until he couldn't because of AIDS. Then for 11 years, he got disability payments. It took 3/4 of the disability payments just to pay his rent. It left him with less than $11 a day for everything else in his life. $11 a day in New York City for all the other expenses in his life. He couldn't afford clothing. He couldn't afford a whole host of basics. Jim's one of the people, like so many of you, Jim's one of the people that took that crisis and turned it into action. He used his own example to ensure that change would come for so many. It's because Jim stood up, so many stood up, that we have the rent cap. And Jim is now able to stay in his home of 35 years and actually have enough money to get by. That's what it means in human terms. He is living proof, something Harvey Milk said it was a promise to all of us, quote, "Hope will never be silent." Hope will never be silent. And that's what you've all proven. And your voices have reached Albany, and I commend Governor Cuomo last June setting the goal of ending the AIDS epidemic by 2020. And the task force is being put together to achieve this, and I want to thank so many of you who are part of that effort, because this is the kind of goal that galvanizes us. And we will be working with community leaders, we'll be working with healthcare professionals, everyone who has something to offer in that fight to achieve that goal. And we know there's so many elements to making people's lives better and to helping them on their path to strength. And it still keeps coming back over and over again to affordable housing, and we've got a lot more to do to make sure that everyone challenged with this disease has the housing they deserve. That will be our focus always. And in this same vein of recognizing our progress and yet feeling the need to keep fighting on, we can take stock of the fact that some things have changed medically that are powerful and positive. We have good therapies, better therapies than ever before. But we still have people who don't learn the reality of their own health, who don't learn whether they are even HIV positive. We still have more to do, and you're going to see a campaign from this city called NY Knows. It will encourage all sexually active New Yorkers between the ages of 13 and 64 to get tested, to do that most fundamental thing and get tested. We're going to make it easier than ever for people who never got tested to have that chance. Offices and programs starting in the Bronx and Brooklyn are going to expand out to all 5 boroughs. We want this to be something people know is there for them. You know what? There's often been fear about the HIV test. Let's face it. There's been a sense of pause when people even think of the notion of getting the test, a reluctance. They stand back from it. But I'll tell you, the only HIV test to fear is the one you don't take. Because if you don't know, you can't get the help you deserve. Our job is to help everyone know that they can get the help, but first they have to take a step and learn what their own reality is so we can all be there for them. That is some of the work ahead that we need all of you to help us achieve. Well, brothers and sisters, I just want to thank you. Thank you for gathering. Thank you for strengthening each other. Thank you for what you've done over these years. Thank you for what you will do in the years ahead. I want to say a special thank you and congratulations to all the honorees today who have done so much.